I want you to take a deep breath right now. Like literally do it with me. Breathe in
Yeah, just take a second.
and hold it for just a second. Because the oxygen molecules currently filling your lungs, they were likely exhaled by a tree outside your window or, maybe by phytoplankton in an ocean thousands of miles away.
Right, exactly.
And the carbon making up the structure of your bones that was forged in the atmosphere long, long before you even arrived.
It's all borrowed.
It is. Biologically speaking, you are a porous, leaking field of borrowed material in this constant exchange with your environment. So my question is, why do we walk around acting like we are securely zipped up inside our own skin, totally separate from everything else?
Well, it's because that illusion of separation is incredibly stubborn. We build our entire lives, our economies, our social structures around this idea that we are isolated individuals.
Yeah.
We think we end at our fingertips, and the rest of the world is just, a backdrop that we move through.
Which brings us to the core mission of today's deep dive. We are exploring a really profound, incredibly dense piece of source material today. It's titled, Is the World Family? Kinship, Belonging, and the Cosmological Body.
It's a fantastic text.
It really is.
Right.
And the goal here isn't to figure out if the word family is just like a nice metaphor for global solidarity.
Right. We aren't looking at catchy political slogans.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
We are trying to figure out if this is an actual ontological inquiry, a description of the literal root structure of our existence. Okay, let's unpack this, because ontological inquiry is a heavy academic phrase. What are we actually asking when we use that term?
So when we talk about an ontological question, we're asking about the fundamental nature of being.
Like the base reality.
Exactly. We are looking at reality at its absolute base layer, beneath culture, beneath psychology, and beneath politics.
So it's not about how we feel about things.
No, not at all. So asking, is the world family, in an ontological sense, is asking whether separation is just a temporary trick of the mind. It asks if we are, structurally and fundamentally, one single undivided body.
Wow.
Yeah. It's not asking if we should act like a family. It's asking if we already are one, whether we realize it or not.
I love that distinction. But, to even begin answering a question that massive, we really have to strip away our very modern, incredibly narrow definition of what a family actually is.
We do.
Because think about how you define your family right now. Like, for you listening, it usually operates like an exclusive VIP club with a strict guest list, right?
Thanks to the modern view.
You either have to be born into it, or your name has to be printed on a legal document, like a marriage license or adoption papers.
Yep.
There is a clear inside and a clear outside.
But historically and cross-culturally, that narrow definition simply didn't exist.
Right.
For most of human history, calling something family meant three specific non-negotiable things. First, it meant sharing an origin. Second, it meant being made of the exact same substance. And third, it meant being bound by a reciprocity that exists entirely before anyone gets to make a choice about it.
So it was an inherited reality, not a contract you sign.
Exactly. You don't opt in. You were born into the web.
I hear that, but I have to push back a little here.
You're right.
Because when you read ancient texts and cross-cultural histories, it's just so easy for us in the modern world to dismiss their worldview as just flowery language.
Oh, absolutely. We brush it off as myth.
Right. So were they just being poetic when they called the earth their mother? Or did ancient people actually believe the universe was literally a family?
They believed it as literal physics. It wasn't poetry for them. It was their cosmology.
Okay.
You see, they did not have that modern Cartesian split where mind and matter are treated as totally separate domains. To them, the universe wasn't a neutral, empty container that just happened to have separate living things bouncing around inside it.
Like a terrarium or something.
Right, exactly. The world itself was an extended, living body. It was animated by a shared substance and organized by inherited relationships. So when they dug into the soil, they weren't just extracting a resource. They were interacting with the flesh of an ancestor.
Man, that is such a shift in perspective. And let's dig into the mythological evidence the source material brings forward, because it paints such a vivid picture of this mindset. Take Sumerian cosmology, for example.
Yeah, great example.
They had Namu, the primordial sea. And the text points out she represents the waters that existed before anything was differentiated or separated into distinct parts.
Right, so imagine you're a Sumerian farmer or builder. You didn't view the earth, the sky, the gods, or humanity as separate creations just placed onto a stage.
Right.
You viewed all of them as having been physically born from inside Namu's literal body. To exist in the world, was to be physically descended from a single originating organism.
So you're basically just walking around inside the mother.
Exactly.
And there is a very similar thread in the Vedic tradition with Aditi. She represents boundlessness itself, right? The mother of all space and all the gods.
Yes. So, again, the universe is a literal lineage. Everything made of space is her offspring.
But I tracked easily with the Sumerian and Vedic myths. The Yoruba concept of threw me a bit. How does an animating force expand this family tree?
Well, think of it as the divine animating power of Olodumare.
Okay.
What makes the Yoruba cosmology so vital is how it views the mechanics of belonging. Human belonging isn't just a social club for the people currently breathing oxygen.
Right, it's bigger than that.
Much bigger. The family web is a continuous circuit of energy that connects the living, the ancestors who have passed into the earth, the physical land itself, and perhaps most radically for a modern listener, the unborn.
Wow. That completely shifts the entire perspective. Because if the unborn are already part of your family web, your responsibility to the environment in the future isn't just some, charity project.
No, not at all.
You are maintaining the home for kin who are already on their way.
Precisely. Belonging is not contained to the human social world. The family is the entire interconnected web, operating across time.
Which sounds beautiful and profound, but the source material doesn't just leave it in the realm of ancient myth, which I appreciate.
Right, it grounds it.
It brings it right into our physical reality today, into what it calls the somatic register, which basically just means the physical experience of the body.
Yes, the lived bodily experience.
And it points out that when a human infant is born, it literally cannot distinguish its own body from the body of the person holding it.
Right, the boundary between self and other is actually a learned construction.
Really?
Yeah, a newborn's primary sensory experience is an undifferentiated warm totality. They don't know where their cheek ends and their parent's chest begins.
Wow.
Separation is a concept we have to be repeatedly taught as we grow up.
And it makes sense why contemplative practices across all sorts of cultures, like deep meditation or intense breath work, often produce that exact same feeling in adults, right?
Yes, exactly.
The hard boundary between you and the world dissolves. And people who experience this don't describe it as a terrifying loss of themselves. They describe it as a profound recognition.
They realize the separation was the illusion all along, and the connection is the base reality.
But let's pause on that because I need to throw a reality check at this theory.
Go ahead.
I get the infant psychology and I totally understand the myths. But the source material leans heavily into biochemistry to prove its point here.
It does.
It mentions that the carbon in our bodies was once in the atmosphere and the water in our blood was once in the ocean. I'm sorry, but isn't that just basic chemistry? I'm literally just borrowing carbon. Sharing a water cycle doesn't make the ocean my brother in any meaningful emotional way. Isn't this just blurring the definition of family to sound deep?
What's fascinating here is how somatic philosophy reinterprets that basic chemistry by challenging our core assumptions.
Okay, how so?
Well, we have this habit of thinking of our bodies as closed containers. You imagine yourself as a sealed jar walking through the world.
Yeah, I definitely do.
But biological reality tells a completely different story. The body is a porous field. It is in a state of constant, unavoidable metabolic exchange with the environment.
Meaning I am never actually closed off?
Never.
Yeah.
You are breathing in the molecules that other people, animals, and trees exhaled moments ago. Your physical structure is built from the exact same mineral compounds as a mountain range or a riverbed.
That's wild to think about.
You are a localized whirlpool in a massive river. You have a recognizable shape for a moment, but the water flowing through you belongs to the whole river.
Wow.
By pure composition, you share substance with the world. And if we return to the historical definition of family, that family means shared substance, then the world meets the exact criteria. It's a structural reality, not a sentiment.
Okay, so if we are physically and biologically borrowing every atom in our bodies from our environment, it's wild that our entire Western philosophical tradition is built on the exact opposite assumption. Why do we resist this undeniable interconnectedness so aggressively?
We resist it because acknowledging it makes our current way of life impossible.
Yeah.
The source material traces this philosophical tension from Aristotle all the way through thinkers like Thomas Hobbes.
Okay, Hobbes.
Yeah, Hobbes gave us the idea of the state of nature as a war of all against all. In this Western tradition, the baseline assumption is the absolute primacy of the isolated individual.
Everyone is out for themselves.
Exactly. Individual self-interest is the only real driving force, and any social bond beyond your immediate biological kin is seen as a fragile, artificial contract you only agree to for your own safety.
But why did that specific view win out in the West? Like, why did we latch on to that?
It was a necessary mechanism for the systems we wanted to build. Think about the rise of the nation-state, the enclosure of common lands, and the explosion of early capitalism.
Oh, I see where this is going.
You need isolated individuals to sign contracts. You need firm boundaries to claim exclusive property rights over land.
Right.
If you genuinely view the forest as your mother or the river as your sibling, you cannot clear-cut the forest for timber or dam the river for private profit.
You just can't do it.
No. The philosophy of the isolated individual was required to justify treating the living world merely as a resource to be extracted.
Man. And that brings us to the darkest, most challenging part of this entire deep dive. And for you listening, this is the part that demands some real internal reflection.
It really does.
Because the source material points out that if we accept the world as family, it places an absolutely crushing weight on the concept of belonging. Because if the world is family, the starving child on the other side of the planet is family.
The obligations become limitless.
Completely limitless. The person who actively harms you is family. The dying ecological system, like the polluted river, the corporation dumping toxins into the soil, is family. And let's be real, most of us struggle just to maintain a functional dynamic with the 3 or 4 people living in our own household.
Exactly.
Scaling that level of obligation up to the entire globe feels impossible. It feels terrifying.
And that terror is exactly why the Hobbesian worldview remains so popular today. It acts as a shield.
It protects us.
Yeah, it tells us we are only responsible for ourselves, which is a much easier burden to carry. The idea of the world as family feels like taking a beautiful concept and stretching it until it snaps.
But here's where it gets really interesting. The source material argues that the critics who say this is too burdensome are completely misunderstanding what a family actually is.
Right. We have a skewed definition.
We totally do. We treat the word family like it's a synonym for safety or like idealized harmony, like a Hallmark movie.
Yeah.
But biologically, family just means entanglement. Think of a spider web. A spider web is a family structure, and you can definitely get trapped in it. Anyone out there who has a difficult family knows they're not just sites of love and support.
Oh, definitely not.
Biological families are full of betrayal, grief, violence, and irresolvable friction.
They don't stick together because everyone is perfectly kind.
Exactly. You can completely estrange yourself from a toxic sibling. You can move across the country and refuse to ever speak to them again. But you cannot retroactively unmake the fact that you share an origin.
Right.
The entanglement remains, even in estrangement.
This raises an important question about what we actually owe to this worldly family. The source material is very careful to validate our discomfort here.
It doesn't sugarcoat it.
No, it says the question, is the world family? Does not demand that everyone magically treats each other well.
Right.
It demands something far more uncomfortable. It requires us to acknowledge that the ties are real, whether we like them or not. It strips away the romance of the word family and exposes the bare, inescapable structure beneath it.
And that fear of being permanently entangled with the whole world brings up a really deep modern anxiety.
It really does.
Like, if you accept that you are irrevocably tied to everything, the good, the bad, the polluted rivers, the strangers on the subway, do you lose your own individual identity? Do you just melt into this giant, faceless collective?
That is the ultimate fear of the Western mind, isn't it? That true belonging requires the erasure of the self.
Yes, exactly.
But the text addresses this directly through a concept it calls sovereignty within kinship. It argues that affirming the world as family is absolutely not about dissolving the individual. Kinship does not require sameness.
Break that down for me, because usually we think of belonging as having to fit a specific mold.
Sure. Think about a river. A river does not stop being a river just because it eventually shares its water with the ocean.
Oh, I like that.
The sovereign self does not stop being sovereign just because it is made of the same primordial substance as everything else. Think about the most vital, healthy families you know.
Okay.
The blessed families are the ones where each member is recognized as irreducibly themselves. You aren't required to disappear or shrink your personality for the sake of belonging to the group. Genuine family holds difference.
The phrase used in the source material is witnessed particularity. You are deeply known, you are totally distinct, and yet you belong.
It's the perfect balance between radical interconnection and honoring the particular. But because we have lost that balance, because we retreated into the isolation of the Hobbesian worldview, our modern society is suffering from a very specific condition. The source calls our current state an ontological orphanhood.
Wow. Ontological orphanhood.
So what does this all mean for the listener? Like, have you ever felt that lingering sense of numbness?
Yeah, that disconnection.
That feeling like you are completely alone even in a crowded room, or that something essential is missing and no amount of personal achievement or bought items can fix it? This philosophy suggests that isn't a psychological failing on your part.
No, it's a cosmological wound. You are feeling the estrangement.
Right, an orphan at the base level of reality. If the world is family, then a massive portion of modern history is simply the story of estrangement.
It's the story of severing those ties.
Think of the historical traumas, the violent rupture of indigenous peoples from their ancestral lands.
The atomization of individuals in post-industrial societies, moving away from communities to work in factories or cubicles, the collapse of intergenerational memory, where many of us don't even know the names of our great-grandparents, or the history of the land we live on.
It's profound.
These aren't just unfortunate cultural side effects of progress. They are literal wounds in the fabric of the family.
And it connects right back to those ancient goddess traditions we discussed earlier. Those traditions viewed this exact estrangement from the primordial mother as the central wound of civilization.
Because you forget where you came from.
Because once you are estranged, once you convince yourself the world is separate from you, that is the psychological mechanism that allows you to treat the world merely as inventory.
As just stuff.
Exactly. And treating the world as a warehouse of goods to extract from is an act of violence against kin.
Man.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the implication is staggering. It means that healing, that lingering numbness, isn't just a narrow, private therapeutic exercise.
You can't just meditate it away.
Right. You can't just fix this inside your own head with better coping mechanisms. Healing has to be cosmological.
Wow.
It is about actively restoring your relationship with the whole body of existence of which you are a part. It requires re-entering the family.
We have covered so much ground today. We started with the cosmos and the ancient myths of Namu and ADD. We explored our own biochemistry, realizing we are literally breathing each other's air in a constant metabolic exchange.
We covered a lot, yeah.
We faced our philosophical fears of losing our individuality to a demanding collective, and we diagnosed our modern numbness as the wound of the ontological orphan. Now, we have to return to the title of our source material to get the final verdict.
Is the world family?
Well, the material offers a brilliant three-part answer to synthesize everything we've discussed. It breaks the final verdict down into origin, substance, and obligation.
Okay, let's go through them.
First, at the level of origin, is the world family? The answer is yes. Everything that exists shares a common source.
Right, the Big Bang or the primordial mother. Exactly. Whether you view that through the lens of a primordial mother, a quantum field, the singularity before the Big Bang, or the breath of Allah Demer, the mechanics don't matter.
The root is the same.
The world didn't pop into existence as a billion totally separate things. It unfolded from a single source into multiplicity. That unfolding is the very definition of a kinship structure.
Second, at the level of substance, is the world family? Again, the answer is yes. We are a vast metabolic exchange with no final edge. The matter in our bodies is shared, it is entirely borrowed, and it will inevitably be returned. No being is self-originating.
But then we reach the third level, obligation. And this is where the verdict changes.
Okay.
At the level of obligation, the answer remains open. It has to remain open. Because at the level of obligation, family isn't a given fact. It is something that must be actively enacted.
We have to choose to step into it.
Precisely. Family, in its fullest, most mature sense, is a deeply ethical undertaking. It is a daily practice.
It's an action.
It's the ongoing work of recognizing and tending to bonds that origin alone does not guarantee will be honored. Just because we share the same carbon and the same origin point doesn't magically mean we will treat each other with care.
Right.
We are family in the exact way that adult siblings are family. We are permanently bound by origin, yes. But we are required to make the daily choice, which is always available but never assured, to recognize each other across the massive distance that our differences create.
We are cosmic siblings who still have to do the hard work of choosing to get along. It's a profound realization, but it leaves us with something incredibly practical to take out into the world. So I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to mull over, something that builds on this exact conclusion.
I love this part.
Tomorrow, or, maybe even later today, you are inevitably going to feel a moment of intense friction with a stranger. Maybe someone cuts you off in traffic, or you have a sharp, unpleasant disagreement with a coworker.
It's bound to happen.
When that happens, what shifts if you view that conflict not as a clash between two completely separate, isolated individuals fighting for resources, but as sibling rivalry on a cosmic scale?
That changes everything.
How does realizing that you can never, ever truly opt out of this family change the very next interaction you have? We want to thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the boundaries, and we'll catch you next time.